Okay, now today, first let us discuss about what is a rule-based definition and what is a copied definition and what is a standard definition. All right. So in Workday, whenever each of these business processes, we call it as definitions. Okay. Each business process that we have in Workday is called as a business process definition. BP is the short form for business process. A business process, like I said yesterday, will give you step by step process to execute a transaction. So if you take higher business process, for example, whatever the steps that are listed out in higher, those need to be executed in order for the higher business process to be completed. If I take change personal information business process, you have to complete each of the steps listed out in that business process for that particular transaction or that particular action to complete, which is change the personal information of the worker. So this way, in every module of Workday, you have multiple business processes. Okay. Now, there will be cases where you don't want to follow the standard business process. When I say standard business process, meaning the default definition. So by default, what Workday gives is called as a default definition. So all the business process will have a default definition. This is the original definition of the business process. So it will have certain steps that are delivered by Workday. Now, what you can do is you can either make use of the default definition and add additional steps if you want. So basically, you can configure this default definition in any way you want. However, let's suppose in your company there are multiple groups of people. Okay, so this is one group, and this is another group of people. You want to use a different version of business process for each of these groups, meaning the number of steps or the flow of steps is different for this group, the flow of steps is different for this group, the flow of steps is different for this group. So your organization decided that we will use three different versions of business process for these specific groups. So we will not be using the default definition. Instead, we will have three definitions. So let's take higher business process, for example, and we call this as group A, group B, group C. Or maybe for a bit more ease of understanding, I will say this is group A is all managers, group B is all individual contributors, and group C is all executives. Okay, just suppose these are the three groups of people and your client wants to have different versions, meaning in group A, for all the employees who are from group A, like if the employee is a manager, what you want is a business process definition, which you want the default definition itself. Let's suppose if it's a group A, you will execute the default definition, and the default definition has about 10 steps before it gets completed. If it's group B, you will use a specific business process for individual contributors. I'm going to call the definition as IC, and this has maybe 12 steps. Suppose this will be 12 steps. So there are two additional steps. And if it's for an executive, we call it as executive business process. And in this, you only have, let's say, 6 steps. So what you need is 3 different versions of business process, but based on the employee type. So if the employee is a manager, you will want this version of business process to be used at the time of execution. If the employee is going to be an individual contributor, so if the job profile is of an individual contributor, you will need this specific version of business process. Or if the employee is an executive job profile, you will need this version of the business process. So in Workday, you have this concept of rule-based definition. So in the rule-based definition, what happens is you can define different rules. You can define rules, and based on the result of the rules. So for example, let's say you created a rule that says if the job profile, if the job profile management level is, let's say, individual contributor. So this is the rule, and then what you do is you'll map this particular rule to this version of the business process. So we have this version called as IC. Okay, so we'll say that if this rule is true, it will execute this IC hire business process, which is another version. Similarly, if the job profile is for executive, so if the job profile management level is executive, you will want the executive level higher business process to be executed. And if it is not this or this, by default, the definition that will get executed, if no rule is equal to true. So if this is not true, or if this is not true, by default, the default definition is what will be used for that particular hire. So now let us look at this in Workday. So you can see that what I've did is let me also explain you this. Now this is one way of doing the config. So basically you are creating a rule based business process where you'll say that based on the rules, you execute different versions of the business process. There is another way which is not very popularly used, or maybe not even used anywhere. I have never used it. However, I'm going to teach it to you. It's pretty convenient though, but it is not used because it is only used by Workday for training purposes. But I have never seen Workday use this particular way of configuring business process, or no client has. I have never worked on any client that uses this. So basically what happens is, let us suppose this is your organization structure. So these are the supervisory organizations and subordinate organizations under that particular supervisory org. Okay. Okay. So let us suppose this is the org structure A, B, C, D, E, and F. What you can do is you can copy a version of higher on top of, let's say, A. So A is the highest org here. I will say I'm going to copy a version of higher business process on top of this particular org, supervisory org. Now what happens is, let's say this particular business process that I copied will become higher for A. Now let us suppose this will have maybe 5 steps like this. 5 steps. Now what happens is any employee that you hire in A or any of the subordinate organizations will follow the same hire for A business process definition. Now in this particular tenant that I'm explaining you, you have a lot of people are creating their own org structure. Okay. So most people, what they do is they will just create a definition on top of the org structure, and they will use it for the purpose of training. And that is what they usually teach the students as well. Again, this is how you configure it. And what I see is most people, when they start working, they'll just bluntly go and copy a business process definition on top of an org, which is incorrect. That should not be done. What you have to do is, if the client wants to create a new version of the business process, now you have to be very clear. The client will also have to be clear that they want to use a separate version instead of configuring the default version. They will specifically mention that. If they want to do that, if they want to take that route, you can do that. Otherwise, you will just follow the default definition. So it is either default definitions or rule based definitions, but very rarely this copied on top of an org definitions. This is very rarely used. In my 10 years career, I have never seen anyone using this, and I have worked on a lot of projects, a lot of implementation, a lot of support engagements. Not a single client I have seen using this, and I'll tell you the reason why they have not used. Once you understand the overall, once you clearly understand these three um, configs. Okay, so let us get back to the tenant, and I'll show you how each of them works. Let me see if I can find the higher default definition. Not sure if I can find it, but let's see. There you go. So this is the default definition for hire. And as you can see, this default definition has just one single step. Okay. Now you can edit this business process this way. So I'll go to the edit business process. So business process, edit definition. And here I can configure a default definition for this. So here I can add additional steps like this. So let's say, let me add an additional step B, action. Let's say change organization assignments. So let me just scroll to change org assignments. I will add another step C. I'll call it as an action step. So whenever you select an action step, you will have a list of actions that you can select. Now these action tasks, this is delivered by Workday, meaning you cannot create your own action step. You will have to use one of the action steps that is provided by Workday. Now, in most of the cases, these will be sufficient for your client's needs. But if in case there is an action step that is required for by your client and it is not part of this particular list, there is another way where we can configure that. I will show that to you later as we progress with this particular sessions. So here, I'm going to select another action step. So I will select the one that says um, propose compensation higher. So basically, I'm proposing a compensation for the hire. And finally, I'll add one more action step. I'll just say edit other IDs. Okay, and each of these steps I will assign it to HR admin. The reason I'm using HR administrator is because I know for sure that the person that I am logging in as, the Ashley, has an HR administrator access. So I'm just assigning HR administrator as a group that will be taking this action. Okay, so each of these action items, so the type of action, the type is an action, the type of step is an action step, and this is the action to be performed, and this is a group that performs it. Now this is called as a security group in Workday. We will discuss more about security groups soon, but for now just understand that in Workday you can create a security group and you can assign people to that security group. Now whenever I'm using HR admin as a security group, all the people who are in this particular group will get an action to complete this change org assignment. Now any one of those people, if they complete that particular action, that action will be completed for the person who we are hiring. Okay, for now just understand that I'm using HR administrator as a security to complete this particular action. So when you are hiring an employee, the first after you initiate the hire, you will be asked to change the organization assignments. You will be asked to update the proposed compensation hire, basically update the compensation, and update the other IDs of the worker. So I'm just going to add 3 steps here. These are not required for now. I don't want to add any due date. I don't want to add any do not advance or advance. So I'm just going to click OK here. So once you click OK, it will arrange it based on the order that you have given. So you see A, B, C, and D. Let's suppose that propose compensation higher. After this particular step, you want to update this particular business process as a completed business process. You can also add a completion step. You will understand more about the business process statuses soon. So you see I have added this particular step as a completion step. Let me also add it as a discussion topic here so that I don't forget to discuss that. All right, so now we have created a business process for hire. We have configured the default definition and we have added a few steps in that default definition. Now let us suppose you want to create a definition just for Amazon Global. So if I go to supervisory org, Amazon Global Development Center. So let's say I want to create a business process. So this is the default definition. I don't want to use the default definition. For employees who get hired in Amazon Global Development Center, I want a separate a business process to be executed for them, a separate version of business process, which is different than the default definition. So for all the employees in this tenant, you will use default definition, but only for employees who get hired in the Amazon Global Development Center, I will use a different business process. So what you can do is you can go to the related actions here. Yes, because you can see here, right? There are no other supervisory orgs. If I
Yeah.
go to this subordinate, you can see that this is a superior organization. And it is not mandatory that you have to copy it on top organization itself. I can copy a higher business process here and all the subordinates will start using that version. But let us say I copied it here and then again I copied it on B. I'll say on top of B, I will copy another business process and then configure it. So all the employees in this particular suborg will use a different version that is not this. So we can have each different versions per supervisory org, or if you whatever you copy on top, it will automatically inherit unless you have an additional one copied on top, which is not the one that is getting inherited. It will use that, or else it will use the one that is inherited. Now in this case for Amazon Global, what I did was I already configured something. So I have already configured something for Amazon Global, I think day before yesterday. Now whenever you copy a business process on top of an organization, that business process will be called hire. So if it is a hire business process, it will be hire. If it is a change of business process, it will be called change job. If it is a edit either ID business process, then it will be called edit either ID for Amazon Global Development Center. This is how you know that that particular business process is copied on top of Amazon Global. So this is how you will copy it. You'll go to the related action of the business process. So let me go to Amazon Global Development Center. You'll go to the related actions. You'll go to business process here, and you can see create copy or link definition. So you'll go to create copy, and here you will search for higher business process. Now when I search for higher business process, I will not be finding it. The reason is I already created one version for Amazon Global. So if I search for BP. Now this is a short form for searching only the, so because if I search for hire, it will give me all the tasks that is related to hire. It will give me the task, it will give me different reports, it will give me the business process definitions, and whatever item, whatever instance in Workday that has this particular text called HIRE, Workday is going to give it. So instead of just searching for hire, what I'm saying is give me all hires, but I just want to see the business process definitions. So if I give an abbreviation, if I give a prefix called BP colon and then search for hire, what it is going to do is it is only going to show me all the hire business processes that have all the business processes that has hire in them. So I'm just going to search BP hire, and you will see there are a ton of business processes over here because a lot of people have been using it. In real time, don't expect these many. In real time, you might be having only the default definition, or maybe one or two additional rule based definition, but rarely you will see about 100 results like this. So just understand that this is a training tenant, and that is the reason you're seeing this. I'm just going to search hire for Amazon Global. This is a problem with having so many versions because it will get difficult to search. So instead, what I'll do is I'll go to the other business process. I'll go to Amazon Development Center. Okay, this one. So I will copy another version on top of Amazon Development Center. So I'm just going to discard this one, and let us configure um, a version under Amazon Development Center. So let me go here and let me go to the business process. So this is how you do it. Copy, create copy. Let me not do it on here. Let me do it on one of these, Canada maybe, because I want to use the top one for something else. So on Amazon Canada Development Center, I'll go here, business process, create copy. And here, let me search for hire. So you see, you got hire over here. I select this one and I click OK. It will create a version just for Amazon Canada Development Center, and it will be called hire for Amazon Canada Development Center. So let it process and it will create it. So whenever you are copying a business process, it will always copy it from their default definition. And then you are again free to configure your own, right? So you can see here, hire for Amazon Canada Development Center. So what happens is um, whenever you are hiring an employee in Amazon Canada, this version of business process will get executed. So let me add a few steps here. I'll just add two additional steps. So I'll just add an action, two action steps like this, and one approval step. Okay. So here in this action step, I'll say change organization assignments. And then I will add another step called personal information, change personal information. And then finally, I will add, now you can see there are multiple types of steps available over here. So we know what is an action step. Basically, action step will provide you a list of actions that can be selected from the list of steps, from the list of action types over here. So these are the different actions that you can you can perform using in the hire business process. Only this particular list is available. Now, suppose you want to create an approval. So once these steps are completed, you want someone to review and approve it. Okay, so you can also have review and approve steps. So review also would come under the action. Let me see if I have review here. So review employee hire. I want the HR admin, not HR admin, let's say I'll say I want the manager to review this. I'll try to find a right security group here. I'll just assign it to HR admin because the security groups are not configured correctly in this tenant. I'll say HR admin. Also, this is HR admin. So I'm adding 3 steps. One is change org assignments, change person information, and then finally review the hire and complete it. And I will say this is step C and this is step D. Now I created this. Okay, now this is created. Now let me go back to that supervisory org. I'll just say sup Amazon Canada. Now I also have to create positions here. What I'll do is I'll create another version for just for the positions. So let me go to business process here, create copy. I will say I'll just create one for create position. Now, whenever I'm going to add an approval here. So once I initiate a create position, it has to be approved by the, let's say HR admin. Okay, so now you have a create position business process for Amazon Canada Development Center, and you have 2 steps here. Now let us go into this supervisory org and let us create a position. So go to the related actions, scroll down to staffing, and then create a position. I'll say this position is assistant manager position. I'll create one position. I'll say the availability date as today. I'll just use one of the job profiles. Let's say, um, let me see if I can find a manager job profile. Okay, I just used one of the, okay, the job profile also had a job description, so it automatically got copied over. I am not going to give any other restrictions. So whatever restrictions you give here, that will be applied. I just want to provide a job profile and that's it. Now, when I submit this particular action, it went for an approval, but it got automatically updated because my profile here is an HR admin. Because I, as the HR admin, initiated this action, it got automatically approved. What I'll do is let me also create. Let's hire an employee and then we'll again create another position, and I'll show you how that approval gets triggered. So for now, we have one position available. I'm going to hire an employee into this particular position. So go to the related action of the position, go to hire and hire employee. Let me create a new pre-hire and I'll call it, let's say, I'll name this person Tom. So I'm going to hire this person as of today. I'll just use a reason code. You can see the job profile automatically got picked up from the position, and the time type, I'll say full time, and submit. You can see, since we have next steps for we have configured the second step as change organization assignments. You can see that particular step has triggered, so you can click on open here and provide the organization assignments here. So I'll say that I want, I remember we created a company. Let's search for Amazon. So here it is. I'll say Amazon Canada. Cost center. Okay, CC Amazon Canada cost center. And that's it. So I have just provided the company and cost center. Let me see if I can submit this, since there are a lot of custom organizations also added here. I'll just add a random value here. Again, someone configured this and made it mandatory. I cannot even remove it. Okay, let me just fix this one. So these are all custom organizations that other people have configured in this tenant. I'll just remove the one that says what, Nokia. I'll just say edit. I just removed it from all those change organization steps. So let me refresh the screen and see if I can submit it again. So it is currently waiting. If I go to my inbox, this particular step will be waiting on me. So let me see. The very first task in my inbox will be to assign organization assignments for Tom Cruise. Let me go here. I have assigned Amazon Canada, Amazon cost center. Let me see if I can submit this now. Okay, so every one of these need to have a value. So this is what happens when a lot of people are using this test tenants, and they just go on configuring different things without much thought given into, like, why are we configuring it, and if someone else will be using this particular config, will it affect them? They just go on config this. Even if I add something, a value, even if I try to add a value into this, it will not have any value. It will just say blank. Okay, this one has some value, but many of these are just blank. So I'll just go here and inactivate many of these. Now I cannot go about inactivating like 593 of this. So what I'll just do is, I'll see if I can just add some value here. IT control, right? Let's see, where is IT control? See, every one of these will ask for a value. Let me go back to the business process and remove this action. I can also go to the business process directly from this in progress staffing action. So like I can go to business process and view definition. It will open the business process version that this particular transaction is using. So I can basically go here, and what I'll do is I'll just edit the business process and remove the change org assignments step. I'm just removing this particular step. Click OK. Now, even if the steps are not in order like A, B, C, it will still arrange it based on the alphabetical order that we have given. So after A, C is the next. If there is no B, then C is the next step in the order. So it automatically arranges itself. So you can see that A, C, and D will be the next steps.
So next here, Nikhil, it will go back to one step ahead, right? One step.
Yeah, I removed the second step. I'll fix it tomorrow. Basically, if I get some time today, what I have to do is I'll have to go to maintain org subtypes and then remove all custom organizations from there so that it will not ask me to enter values here. Okay, let me show you that. I just did not come to that point because I did not explain you about condition rules, but let us do that. Let us do that. So since we are, since you are asking, maybe we'll do that particular activity here. I'll just add that step and then we'll skip it. We'll add a skip condition there so that it will skip it. Okay. So let me just add, I'll just add back that step action. I'll say change org assignments and assign this to the HR admin. And then I will try to skip the step. Okay. So here you can see there is an if condition. So basically, whatever condition that you add in this particular box over here, okay, that will be used as an evaluation condition. Basically, it will check if you add a condition, then it will check if that condition is true or not. Only then it will enter. So what I'll do is I'll add a condition that will make sure it is always false. So I'll go to the related actions here, business process. You can see maintain step conditions. So whenever I add a condition onto the step, it will check if that condition is true. Only if that condition is true, that step will be executed. So what I'll do is I'll go to this maintain step condition, click OK. Here in the entry condition, I will say that 1 equal to 0. I'll just create a condition rule, click OK. So I'll say a condition rule is always false. So in the, this is a source field. Now let me show you how condition rules are also created. Okay. Now in Workday, you can create a this is how all the condition rules in Workday is created. You will have to create like a source. You'll use a source field and you will compare it with a value. So in the source field, you are going to say whichever whatever value you will use as a source. In this particular example, I'm going to use 1 as a source. 1 is a number. So is 1, so this is a numeric value. Is 1 in the related list, I'll say, is equal value specified in this filter equal to 0. Will 1 be equal to 0? It will never be equal to 0. It will always be false. So I'll just say 1 equal to 0. This condition is always false. 1 will never be equal to 0. 1 will always be equal to 1, right? I just created a fail safe always false condition. So now you see that there is a condition 1 equal to 0, which will always render to false. So the second condition, the second step will never trigger. Okay. Now let me show you that in action. Let me go back to our Amazon Canada and let us hire an employee again into that business process. So let me go to Amazon Canada Development Center. Now we already have a transaction in place. I'm going to cancel this. So I'll go to related action, business process, cancel. Since it is an in progress transaction, I'll just cancel it. I'll just go here, say test, cancel. Now I'll go to the related actions of this position. This time I will again initiate hire. So hire employee. I already have existing pre-hire. So I'll say Tom Cruise or whichever Tom Cruise is fine. There might be another Tom Cruise in this. I'll give yesterday's date, reason, I'm just giving asterisk values. So everything asterisk. Okay, here we have employee type. Employee type is consultant, Amazon consultants, and location I'll use AMZ, Toronto. Okay, submit this. Now you can see the next step that is triggered is change personal information. If I go to view details and go to details and process here, and I can go to the overall process. So I can go to overall process and check what happened. You can see that the change org assignment step got skipped. It got rendered as not required. The reason it happened is we had created a rule that says 1 equal to 0. If I open this particular step in a new tab, it will show the details of the step. So step B, let it open. You see the order of the step is B, the type is action, task is change org assignments, group is HR admin, and you can see the entry condition is 1 equal to 0. Now we made sure that this particular step will always fail, and I can also show you the results in by testing it. I can go to the overall business process here, business process. I can also do a test rule. So if I test this rule, which we used, which is 1 equal to 0, let me show that to you. So we created this rule 1 equal to 0. If I click OK, you can see that the value of this rule is no, meaning the rule result is false. 1 is equal to 0, no. 1 is always, this is the comparison value, the source field result. 1 is always equal to 1. It will never be equal to 0. Hence, the result is a no. And that's why you see the rule result as no. So whenever the rule result will be false, this particular step will be skipped. And the next step, which is personal information change, is being triggered. So let me complete the next step. I'll just go to my inbox and I'll complete the change personal information step. So here I'll just add maybe the date of birth. So 01/01/1993. I'll submit this. And you remember the last step was the review step. So if I click on review, it will let you review the all the activity. So this is the hire date of the employee, the reason code, and you can also see the other details that we have given. So all this is looking good. I'm just going to approve this transaction, and the employee will now be hired. So if I now go to Amazon Canada here, so if I go to hire time Tom Cruise, you can see I've hired this employee in Amazon Canada Development Center, and you can see this person has now been hired, Tom Cruise E1425. So this is how you can create a business process on definition on top of the default definition. Like you can copy it on top of another supervisory org. So this is the supervisory org, Amazon Canada Development Center, and you can see all the details of this particular employee, like which position, what business title, what job profile, job family. If I go to job here, go to the worker history, and let me open that business process here. So business process, view definition, and you can see this is the definition that is being used. Amazon Development Center. Okay, you can see hire for Amazon Canada Development Center. Now what I'll do is I will not hire an employee into Canada. I'll just go back one step up. Basically, I'll go to the superior org, and here I will try to now create a position. So remember, we had a separate business process for hire for Amazon Canada. Now, if I try to we also had a separate business process for create position with two steps. One is initiation step, and then the second action was a approval by the HR admin. Now let's see what happens when I try to create a position in this org, which is an org, which is a superior org. So I'll go to staffing here and I'll say create position. I'll just give as senior Amazon operations manager. I'll just give the basic details like the availability date and earliest hire date. I'll select no job restrictions. Basically, I'm not adding any kind of restrictions. I'll just creating a position. When I submitted this particular task, it only had one step. It did not have that approval step. The reason being this, like I just explained, if you have copied something on the top of it, it will automatically be inherited by all the lower orgs. However, what we just did was we created one for only for Canada. Basically, we created the create position business process just for Canada. Hence, it only we only did it for Canada. So only for this particular org it got executed. But the top org, the superior org, which was Amazon Development Center, that did not get affected because it is in the lower org. However, if we had an additional it was a subordinate, then it would automatically inherit this particular business process because it is a subordinate. Like this is how basically you will copy a business process on top of an organization, and you can do it on top of a supervisory organization like this. Now suppose, and now like I said, this is not used, it is not widely used, it's not an industry practice to do this. Instead, if you want to use a different version, what you will do is you create a rule based definition. So this is the structure. We have global on top, Amazon global on top. Under Amazon global we have Amazon development center, and under development center we have Canada development center, I think UK development center, we have US development center. I think those are the three centers. Let's see Canada, India, Italy, and UK. All right, Canada, India, Italy, UK. So Canada, um, UK, Italy, and India. So what I basically did was on top of this, I copied a create position, and I also copied a hire. Now this will only execute for employees who are joining this particular org. And since this org don't have any subordinate orgs, it will not get inherited. It will just stop here. It will only be used here. However, if I had done this way, instead of doing it this way, if I had done it, let's say, um, instead, if I had copied it on top of Amazon Development Center, all these orgs will inherit that particular process. Let me show that to you really quick. I'll go here to the Amazon Development Center. I'll go to business process here. I'll say business process copy. And if I say create position, I just added an additional approval step. Now, sometimes if you are adding an approval right after initiation, and if you are the person who is initiating the transaction and you are the person who will be the next approver, Workday will automatically approve it because Workday knows that you are the initiator. So if the approval is also one of yourself, it will just say that, okay, since you initiated it, I'm going to automatically approve it. So you will not see this approval triggering. However, if I go to the process and check the business process, you will see that there was an additional step, but it got auto approved. Okay. Let me go to the supervisory org, Amazon Development Center. And this time I'll just go to Amazon India here. I'll see if I can create a position here. So staffing, create position. See here. Now, if I go and open the business process definition from this, so view definition, you will see that the definition that is used, even if it was India, the definition that was used was Amazon Development Center, create position for Amazon Development Center. Because you can see create position for Amazon Development Center. We copied it on top of this. So all of them inherited. Earlier what we did, we copied it on top of here, so these was not affected. None of the other orgs were affected because I did it in the lowest node. But if I do it over here, all of them will start using unless I copy it again on top of here. Now you see the limitation for this. If I want to use a different version, so let's say I have a requirement like this. And then you can start creating reports on due date saying that these many action steps are due by these many people. We can start sending notifications and all. So again, due date is something I have never seen anyone utilize it.
Okay.
We just have it so I'm not going to focus on due date, but basically this is a use case. You say the due date is 3 days, and then you can create a report that employees action steps that are past due date. It will pick up this particular step has not been completed, and then you can start sending notifications to the employees saying that hey, this particular action is past due. So that is why we use. Some clients maybe use it. I have never used it. So um, that's about it. So the Workday has a lot of features, guys. It's not necessary everyone will use it. Some people are like, "Ha, okay, we'll use it." Some people don't want to use it because they don't want to keep sending employees these email notifications and pester them. And because there will be complaints saying that, "Hey, Workday generates so many notifications. It's not a very great user experience. We don't want so many notifications." You'll start getting these kind of complaints from employees. So some people they don't send so many notifications. They'll only send notifications that are required. So most clients, they don't prefer to have any kind of due date. They just leave it as it is. All right, coming back to our discussion now. If I have a requirement where I'll say, if the hire, let's take hire for example. If I am hiring an executive, I want a specific business process flow. If I am hiring a manager, I want a specific business process flow. And for everyone else, I want the default definition. Now, there is no guarantee that you will only hire executives in this org. There is no guarantee that you will hire managers in this org. You might hire managers here. You might hire a manager here. So there is no guarantee which org you will use. This is one of the reasons having copying a definition on top of the org is not scalable at all. Because if I copy it on top of here, all this will use the same business process flow. You cannot have a different business process flow for different scenarios. So instead of doing this, what we'll do is we'll create a rule based definition. So what rule based definition does is, based on the rule, if the job profile is an executive job profile, then executive definition will be triggered. If the job profile is of a manager job profile, if it's a manager job profile, then manager definition will get triggered. If it is not this or this, then default definition will get triggered. You can configure rule based definition. Now this is very scalable because let's say in the future you have additional subordinates like this. They will all follow these rules regardless of how many organizations you have throughout the tenant. This will be at a tenant level config throughout the tenant. No matter how many organizations or how many employees you are having, if this one of these rules are triggered at the time of hiring, it will automatically trigger that specific definition instead of the default definition. Now let us see how we can configure rule based definitions in Workday.